Let's dive into the science of rest, which is pretty misunderstood for a lot of people, but can actually be quite a simple variable to work with. So, if we look at what we do for our rest periods, it will determine the outcome that we get. So, we can tailor the rest period to be specific to the outcome that we want to get with our client, both psychologically, physiologically, muscular development, strength. There's a number of different ways that we can move this around. So, key principles: the longer you rest, generally going to get the more muscle gain. Okay, so longer intervals allow for greater recovery, which enables heavier lifts, high volume, and reduced cardiovascular stress. This is better for both strength and muscle growth. Now, generally, what we find is that isolation exercises will need shorter rest simply because there's less systemic fatigue. So, if I was going to do a bicep curl versus a squat, the squat will also have some cardiovascular demands. I hope the bicep curl doesn't have too much cardiovascular demands. So, it's going to need a different amount of recovery. So you can do this with a couple of different methods to do that. Generally, what people will say is 90 to 120 and 30 to 90 based on compound isolation. Generally, if someone's not really time poor and you're programming for it, I would recommend that they rest until they can give out, a full output and do better. It is generally the best rule of thumb that you can give, purely if you're looking at it from a hypertrophy and strength standpoint, to let people rest what they need to basically get it done. So we do it practically though. Generally, rigid rest periods may not allow for that. So if we let the client rest on their performance, it is ideal. They might need less rest at the beginning. They might need more rest as they go on. That's totally okay because it's focusing on quality. Now, if we're looking at a client who's looking at maximal strength, we might, do up to 8 minutes to allow full recovery between their sets, which is going to allow for optimal performance. But again, we need to look at the time for that. So how do we apply it for programming? We match rest to exercise type. We can adjust for the goals, and we can consider the client experience as well. So this is where it matters. If a client's goal isn't purely optimizing hypertrophy, which is going to happen a lot, what we might do is actually give them very simple prescribed rest periods to allow them to get through the workout in a faster time frame. If we have a client who has a tendency to go offline and basically not focus on the workout and do a whole bunch of other stuff while they're training, we might adjust and give them scheduled rest periods. If you've got someone who just blasts through the workout and tries to get done as fast as possible and doesn't rest because they're just trying to get stuff done, we may actually apply a longer rest period to that particular client. So what I tend to do is I actually apply rest periods to all the programs that we give out at Ascend because it at least ensures that the client knows roughly where they need to go. I don't expect many clients to follow them 100% to the letter, but if we can give people a recommendation, they're going to do pretty much 90% the right thing, which is all we need. Now, the other considerations where we're going to talk about in conditioning modules and the programming for that, whereas you can utilize rest periods of like 20 seconds, 45 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds to optimize performance from a physiological standpoint. So this is a lot more intensive programming, and you need to understand how someone's eating, what they're supplementing with, what their overall outcome is, and how their physiology is going, because you can become much more specific with rest at that point. For the meantime, generally look at giving suggested rest guidelines in all your programs for the clients based on the goals in here. And if a client has time to do it and hypertrophy and strength is a goal, please encourage more rest. For fat loss clients, the rest really won't make a big difference because they're still not going to burn any more calories throughout the workout just from having shorter rest periods. They're just going to feel like they're getting a better workout, which psychologically could be just as important.